All right, guys, today we're going to look at some side control options and really a modified side control that is controlling the far side shoulder that opens up some options for Americanas, maybe armbars, Kimuras, or even just better control that might give you a way to hold an opponent down in side control if you're struggling with it. So let's go ahead and jump into side control. All right, so a couple of thoughts on side controls. I'm always chalking the hips and shoulders. I'm using my knees on this side and the elbow or some hand on this side, and then some degree of control on the shoulder or the jaw, right? So if I'm just like this, he's got too much room to work. Never ever want to do that. So knees or even hips, but for today we're going to use knees, and I'm usually going to be under the head. Elbows here. So this is always kind of a good basic kind of side control. A more common one is I bring this far side hand underneath like I'm holding the shoulder, and I gable grip. Now as I'm here, I'm not light, I'm keeping everything tight, but I'm not leaning across and it shifts my weight too much. So really what I want to do is think about the idea of getting under the shoulder real tight, and as I pull him to me, I'm driving this shoulder across his jaw. If he can look and see me, it's not as good for me, right? If he's loose here, he can bridge and start getting his escapes in. When I pull him to me and drive that shoulder down, now when he starts bridging, it's much harder. It's not impossible, it's just harder. The other thing to think about is the higher up I go on him, yeah, I'm controlling his shoulders good, but I open up the hips for escape, right? So if I can, I want to try to keep him pulled down towards his hips. Because now if he's starting to move around those hips, it's a lot harder. Okay, so this is basic side control, just a concept. But what we're going to do is we're going to build on it. So I've already got my hands under his shoulder, that's perfect. I'm going to lift this shoulder and grip this arm that's under the head to his armpit. If I'm in gi, I'll grip the gi and pull. If I'm in no gi, I'll just rip out the armpit hairs. Just kidding. But I'll grip the armpit and pull back, try to drive that shoulder a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to lengthen my arm to his hip here. Now most people will have this frame on the hip and a cross face like he's doing here. So if he's framing here, there's a window right here. Okay, if he's really pushing me up, as long as I keep my elbow on his hip, even if he bridges, it's hard for him to escape, and I can actually thwart that. If he keeps it low and he's not actually escaping, I'll have to force it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my elbow, keeping this chalked here. I'm also using my far side leg, so I'm creating a vice pressure so his hips can't move. I chalk the hip, and I take my hand palm towards me, and I drive it up through here, right? Now it seems like, oh, it's impossible if he keeps that arm in tight, right? It's a bit of a battle. So I get here, squeeze that in, right? So he's working that cross face. I'll get here, I'll work it, and if I can't get it, I'll start making a fist. And I'm really pushing right up through this crack. Sometimes I can do it with a knife hand, sometimes I got a fist all the way through. What I'm really doing is making it painful. So if he's squeezing it tight, I come back and I force it through, but to the elbow pit. And now I'm gonna turn my hand up right here. I always like to say I'm serving bullshit. Serving a big pile of bullshit, that way I remember. Now from here I want to connect my hands. But what I want to do is bring this hand to this hand. If I go this way and connect my hands, all the space in the world. Okay? But if I get here, like this, and I pull him here, I shift my weight to his hips, I'm pulling his head up, much harder to bridge, and I pull up to the hands, and now I'm going to pull into that shoulder. You can't see it, but there's a lot of pressure on his neck and shoulder here, and immediately I'm going to chalk my legs up. So now he's turned on his side a little bit more, and there's a lot of pressure on that neck. Now if he tries to bridge and shrimp, much, much harder. So let's go through that again one more time. So basic side control. I'm not even going that tight here, right? I lift the shoulder, get to that armpit here, and I slide down here. If he starts cross-facing me, I'll look for that opening right away. If he doesn't and he lays there, he lays in wait, I'll force it by sliding up. I'm driving the thumb this way, keeping that strong. Turn, pull that top hand around his head to me, and then I chalk. I'm pulling him into me. If you can come around here a little bit like this, I want you to see this top knee as I do this. So I'm here, normal side control, right behind the shoulder. I pull down up to this, and as I go up, see that space right there? See that space? I'm going to drive in. This arm becomes very uncomfortable. It was a frame when he's on his back, he can move it. But when I turn up here, now if he tries to push it, it's too collapsed. So if I'm really driving heavy here and controlling on this shoulder, keeping this down, he can't turn in towards me. I've stopped that hip escape, and that arm starts to feel pressure. So as I drive it up, sometimes they want to come out. I'll open my knee a little bit, and if he drives it out on his own, like up, yeah, I'll let him. This is great. So if I feel that, fantastic. If not, and he keeps it in, fine. There's not anything that's going to work for him. Okay? So coming back to what we're doing here, we're solidifying or isolating this arm. So I'm nice and tight here, and I'm going to make some space so that this topside arm right here can drive to the armpit. Now that I've got the armpit, I slide my other arm back here and frame. So what's cool about this is I'm framing my palm and my elbow, so if he tries to take his elbow, right, it's against his own hip. If I lift, he'll swing it back in. If I try to go on top of it off the mat, he'll just swing it back in. If I frame on the mat, I'm pushing down and holding here. So I've got the armpit, everything's turned. Now go ahead and get that arm back, right? Even if he's moving, I'm controlling the hip, the arm. I'll slide into the inside and hold here. Very strong pressure on that head and shoulder. Now, often this topside arm starts waving like that because it doesn't really do much. So they start focusing on other things. That's when I'm gonna grab. As I grab, I'm gonna pull it as tight to his shoulder as I can. If we can come around here a little bit, I'm gonna try to drop it to the mat, okay? Now this looks like the beginning of an Americana. If I wanted to, I could solidify my grip, come over the top, and however you finish the Americana, no worries. The thing is, when I come over the top and come here, oftentimes people escape as I'm going through this, right? I don't like that. I'm not a good enough Americana player to get away with it. So I will keep this arm in tight, like I'm trying to have his thumb touch his shoulder. Keeping it in tight, still gripping here, still pulling his head up. Now what I'm gonna do is push, almost rotating my hand like a motorcycle throttle. I'm rolling that hand away so that I can get under the shoulder, not the arm, the shoulder. Now this hand drives palm down under the shoulder. Look, he's already tapping, okay? Super shoulder lock. Now if I go a little lighter just so we can see where this is going and make some space, I'm driving under the shoulder. So now my forearm is like a fulcrum under that shoulder. And I'm pushing down while rolling in. Some people are really flexible. I'm trying to be very gentle here. That I can come in here like this. If he drops that other arm out around my hip, so drive it all the way around the outside. Right, if he's come here, sometimes they can roll in a little bit more, and that actually feels like it's gonna relieve pressure. It makes it worse, okay? I don't want it out wide. I want it tight, and I'm rolling it here. I'm breaking the shoulder and twisting the wrist, all at bad angles, okay? So one more time. Start from the beginning. Basic side control. He's wiggling around, he's moving around. I need to lock this down, control the hips, chalk the shoulders and hips. Pull up, grab the armpit, down to the hip. Pretty good pressure here, I can kind of ride out the storm. I start looking for this opening. If he pushes at me, great. If he doesn't and he's just chilling, I'll feather up through the hole until I find it. There's my serving bullshit, right? I'm serving some bullshit. I pull towards, see how I push this out? I pull towards, I get my grip, and now I chalk. Chalk my high knee up there. If he wants that arm out, I'll kind of let him. Sometimes I feel it, and I'll go like this. Even better. If he keeps the arm in, great. Don't care. Okay? Chalking up nice and tight. I make some space. Grab that armpit. Back to the elbow here. Just like this. All my weight is on his arm. From here, if he wants to kind of push in my face or start pushing around, I'll kind of let him. I'm just cranking. I'm waiting until I see that grip. It's actually really easy to get this. Easier than you think. Now I'm pushing that to the mat. I lift his head up. So I push his hand down. Head up, drive under the shoulder. Be careful here with your partners because sometimes they'll tap here. I'm just cranking the shoulder up, okay? If I can get all the way through and I'm being gentle here, my partner, make that nice Kimura grip, pull in tight and roll and crank, right? So this is a very short fulcrum. It's an awesome, awesome shoulder submission. However, let's say this is too much. Just getting that arm, getting it locked here opens up that Americana, that far side armbar. Maybe a setup for a Kimura or even just good control to step into the mount. So it's a better side control than the traditional side control. And this one submission out of it is really quick and easy, and it's very, very smooth to do. It's not hard. Try it out, see if you like it.